With the press a long time. I think the political press is among the most dishonest people that I've ever met. The people don't trust you, and the people don't trust the media.
She starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions, and, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
I have the right to ask the question.
You haven't been called.
I have the right to ask the question.
Go back to your
no.
And he stood up and started ranting and raving like a madman. He was totally, absolutely out of line.
The mainstream media, these people back here, they're the worst. They are so dishonest. No, they're so dishonest. Is absolute dishonest, absolute scum. Remember that. Scum. Scum. They're totally dishonest people.
But let me tell you about the Wall Street Journal. I have no respect whatsoever for the Wall Street Journal. I don't think they know what they're doing. They have taken me on so much. It's so ridiculous. Every day editorials, bad editorials. I don't even want to read it very much anymore. They're so wrong.
We're going to open up those libel laws so that when the New York Times writes a hit piece, which is a total disgrace, or when the Washington Post, which is there for other reasons, writes a hit piece, we can sue them and win money. By the way, the world's most dishonest people are back there. Look at all the cameras going. Look at all those cameras. Unbelievable. They are dishonest. Most of them, not all of them.
Why we hate the press.
I'm not looking for credit. But what I don't want is when I raise millions of dollars, have people say, like this sleazy guy right over here from ABC. He's a sleaze in my book. You're a sleaze because you know the facts, and you know the facts well. It was very unfair that the press treated us so badly. Go ahead.
See, that's why we love Donald Trump. Welcome to the Savage Nation. I've put up with the guff of these Solentarists for 22 years. They've smeared me. They've misquoted me. They've boycotted me. They've ignored me. And now, finally, I and others like me have someone fighting for us. His name is Donald Trump, who will be on this program sometime today. And I'm going to ask you, I have my list of questions, a couple of things. Trump is on the show today. Number one, do you still support Trump? I mean, he's changed a little bit along that road from the beginning till now, but not that much. He's still going strong against the enemies of this republic. I like that about him. Do you like him more now or less than you did in the beginning? And also, what questions remain unanswered from Donald Trump? What important questions remain unanswered from Donald Trump? And for the Hillary supporters out there, why do you want her as president? I can give you one reason why she belongs in prison rather than in the Oval Office. But I'll leave that to you. Why would you vote for a woman of such low character and of such a failed background? I don't understand it. I could see electing a Democrat who is a patriot. I could see that. You had a candidate like that, and they drove him off the stage in the first month. He's the former Navy secretary. The finest Democrat of the whole pack they drove off the stage because it would have shown her for what she is. Also, my friends, I'm going to give out copies of my wonderful book, Teddy and Me, today, especially in this time of the killing of Harimbi. I think it's more important than ever to respect our furry friends. I don't know about you, but I didn't sleep well last night. I spent the whole day talking about the killing of Harambe the gorilla, and it got to me. I want to know who the response team is who killed him. We've been searching for pictures or names of the response team. Who was the dangerous animal response unit who shot the gorilla? Who are they? The response team we read includes full-time keepers, vets, maintenance, zoo leadership, and security staff members. Who are they? Who pulled the trigger on Harambe? Why isn't the hero being shown? I'd like the answer to that question. Slain zoo gorilla was putting an arm around the child, according to one of the greatest primate experts in the world, Jane Goodall. I saw that with my own eyes. It was the people that scared that beautiful, gentle giant. By the way, lowland gorillas are not aggressive animals. As little as I know about primates, even though we are involved in supporting those who, let's say, save them in the wild, the lowland gorilla is not an aggressive species. This is a beautiful animal. And by the way, there were 2 female gorillas in the cage. Do you know that they grieve like humans do? It's enough to rip your heart out. Has anyone given those female gorillas an idea of where Harambe is, their friend for all these years? The male? Where are the lady gorillas, the women gorillas, female gorillas? Has anyone given them a chance to grieve? That's what the Jane Goodall is asking. She said, are they allowed to see and express grief, which is so important to them? You hear what I'm saying? She also said, I feel sorry for you, those of you who killed the gorilla, having to try to defend something which you may well disapprove of. Jane Goodall declined to comment further. I had a dream last night. I talked about the gorilla yesterday. It's a heartbreaker. There's almost no win on this one. It's almost no one's right and no one's wrong. I mean, the only person who should be indicted is the mother, the mom, some mom. I had children. I didn't let them go in a dangerous situation. I held on to their clothing if I had to. Who lifts a child up on a 3-foot wall to look at a gorilla? Except a negligent parent. She should be indicted for child endangerment as far as I am concerned, but I don't want to relive that again. Or if you care to sound off on it, of all the stories I have ever posted on my Facebook page, this has received by far the greatest response of people who want to sound off on this. So it would be foolish for me to say, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I do want to hear what you have to say in the mix while we're waiting for Donald Trump. You know, I had a dream last night about animals. It's a funny thing. I treat my dog very well. As you know, he's my little hero. So I did a book, Teddy and Me. But, I mean, I don't worship the dog. Don't get me wrong. I just like the guy. He's a good friend of mine. And a constant companion, and most of the time he brings out the best in me. Sometimes I am so ill-tempered that I just don't talk to him in the right way. But I never do anything more than that with him. And he just goes the other way. If he sees I'm in a bad mood, he just looks at me. I see the eyes go, and he goes in the other room. He knows better than to bug me. But the point is, last night I had a dream that I was in a forest. For those of you who follow this show and have come to understand it, sometimes I divulge my dreams. Last night I dreamed I was in a forest, and I came upon 2 German shepherds that were roped to trees, and it was in the most inhumane way I could imagine. They were mid-sized German shepherds. They were not the large ones, maybe the 100-pounders. And one of them was roped by the neck to 2 trees, one to the left and one to the right. And the poor dog could not get off the ropes. No matter which way he went, he couldn't run, he couldn't walk. And his neck was all like naped up from the ropes. It was pressed against his neck, the fur. He was in agony. And the other dog was on a single rope and was running in circles, howling, trying to free the other dog. Of course, it symbolizes what we all feel about ourselves in a way. We all feel chained around the neck by our society and by the strictures of our politically correct culture. I understand that. And by the communist thief in the White House who says one thing and does another, constantly tightening the noose around our neck, whether it's on spying or using the IRS as a weapon, or by catering to our enemies or bowing down to the Hiroshima situation while spitting on the graves of our war veteran. We all feel the noose tightening and we just are ready to snap. Anyway, in this dream, I released them from their snares. And they came with me, and I remember trying to feed them, and that was the whole dream. It's only about trying to treat the innocent creatures of the world better than they're treated on this planet. We've evolved as a species, haven't we? I know there are many of you who have not evolved, and you think that dogs are to be beaten, dogs are to be fed into a pit bull pit. Oh, yeah, some of you still do that. I know that. Some of you are still unevolved human beings. But most of humanity has evolved beyond that. Now, by the way, there's only one religion that hates dogs. I don't even have to tell you which one it is. Select from above. Christians, Jews, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Zoroastrians. There's only one religion that hates dogs. Did you know that? They treat dogs about the same way that they treat women in their home countries. And yet your president keeps bringing more of them in than of any other religion. Why is that? What do you think the society will be like in 20 years? How about in 2 years? But anyway, that's a separate question. Today is another issue on the show. Donald Trump is criticizing the media, rightly so. They are the reason for the demise of America. How many years have I said that to you? Raise your hand if you have the answer. I see the audience out there, this vast audience of 300-some-odd-thousand people every 15 minutes. That's the AQH of this radio show. It's larger than any football field you've ever been to. Think about that. Think about that. I'm not intimidated by the numbers, and yet I know you're there, and I know each one of you is an individual. And I know that not every one of you agrees with me. In fact, some of you despise my politics, and yet you're attracted to the show and you listen to it. It's not to hear me stumble. It's because somewhere within you, you know that I'm right. Somewhere inside, you know that I'm right, and you're waiting for the light bulb to go off in your own brain until you finally say, you know, I was wrong all these years. But I'm not out to convert you. I could care less what you do. I'm not an evangelist. I don't rub my face in cornflakes. I'm not out to sell you a footstool, a toadstool. I'm not out to sell you anything, frankly. I have a lot of other things that I really want to say that I just stop myself from saying. Because at a certain point, you have to know when to hold, and you have to know when to fold. The long and short of it is, Donald Trump will be with us on the Savage Nation today. There's been a long hiatus between his last visit, and I know many of you said, did he use you and then just disappear? That was never the truth. That was absolutely never the truth, and I knew that. Well, he's confirmed for today, and we're going to talk with him, and we're going to talk with you on the guerrilla shootings on Donald Trump's appearance. What would you like me to ask him? I also want to talk about infectious diseases that are surging in the U.S. of A. Stories now of Zika, TB, measles spreading throughout the United States. Leishmaniasis, that's a flesh-eating bacteria, uncontrolled. And the liar in chief, the double-talking deceiver in the White House and his little boys at the CDC are lying through their teeth about the dangers they are putting us in. And when Donald Trump becomes president, there should be a trial of those in the CDC for having known what was going on and looked the other way and lied for Obama's political ends. Yes, there should be a trial, and we'll name them who they are. They should be put on trial for having brought diseases into the country when their job was to have been the gatekeeper to prevent diseases from coming into the country. And they have names. They look very nice in their suits and ties, and I'm sure their mothers love them, but I don't love them. They are criminals. They are societal criminals, and there should be a trial for them. Every other rational Western society tries governmental officials who knowingly lie to the people in their country. I can give you one example after another. I remember when I was, it was a long time ago, in France. Long time ago in France, I think it was in the 70s. There was a contaminated blood supply. I think it was hepatitis that got released into a blood supply. It was such an outcry in France that they tried the head of their health department, whatever it is called. She was put on trial and put in prison, even though she didn't knowingly contaminate the blood supply. It was her job to protect the blood supply. And that's how they kept their governmental officials honest. And I'm sorry. I really don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I demand a trial for these directors of the CDC who are letting Zika and the other diseases into this country and doing nothing about it but lying. And speaking about Zika, remember a few months ago I published an ebook, Diseases Without Borders? Remember that? You thought it went nowhere? Well, I just got my Academy Award today. I call my plaques with the book cover and the bestseller list showing where it is. That book was a number 9 bestseller. Diseases Without Borders. It's all about what you can do to augment your immune system in this age of imported diseases. And it's an ebook. It's very inexpensive, and I put it together specifically so many people could access it. I have many of these plaques with my best-selling book covers and the list and the picture of it nicely framed. And I'm going to donate them all to my granddaughter. I could see her on the Antiques Roadshow. Well, I won't be here, but she can have all of them signed by me. She'll have like 15 such bestseller plaques with my autograph on the back paper. And they'll say, what was that? What were they? Books? Tell us, young lady, what were books? Well, she won't be a young lady by then. She might be my age by then. She'll say, well, I had a grandfather who was a writer, and he wrote these things called bestsellers. Well, can you explain what a book was, please? What did they look like? What were they for? Okay, that's the opening to the show. Donald Trump later. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. So as we wait for Donald Trump to arrive, it'll be here, I think, at the end of the next hour. I'm not exactly sure. You know, he's on a campaign trail, and we have to be very flexible. So just stay tuned. What can I tell you? You know, we're not CNN. We have a fixed time. There's a guy named Bill Kristol who I've ridiculed for years. I know he's just a guy who inherited some money and opened up a magazine. I knew the type of kid. I went to school with them. They couldn't even run a clothing store, that type. The father had a clothing store in Jackson Heights and put the kid in there. It would be boarded up within 3 months. So I used to call the Weekly Standard the Meekly Standard. Now, some of the writers are excellent. This guy, though, is very creepy. And he's still up there saying Trump should not run and we're going to start a third party. And one of the schmendricks that he wants to run against Trump is a man you never heard of. An idiot named David French to run an independent presidential campaign. I don't know who David French is, nor do I care. But he writes for that other failure of a magazine called the National Review, which was great under William F. Buckley Jr. I grew up on it, by the way. And then it was invaded by these individuals who have destroyed the integrity of the National Review. Anyway, this guy, character wants to run for the presidency just to undermine Trump. But what you don't know is that Bill Kristol's meek standard, his meek candidate, rather, David French, defended the idea that working class communities deserve to die. Specifically, David French wrote a piece in support of a guy named Williamson who had said the following: the truth about these dysfunctional, downscale white communities is that they deserve to die. Economically, they are negative assets. Morally, they are indefensible. Forget all your cheap theatrical Bruce Springsteen crap, he wrote. Forget your sanctimony about struggling Rust Belt factory towns and your conspiracy theories about the wily Orientals stealing our jobs. Forget your main products are misery and used heroin needles, he wrote. Donald Trump's speeches make them feel good. So does OxyContin. What they need isn't analgesics. They need opportunity, which means that they need a U-Haul. That's who wants to run for the presidency. That's the National Review. That's the Weekly Standard. Have a nice day.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
So Donald Trump's up in Sacramento this afternoon, the same time as the Seltzer Man is going to be there. You got the communist Seltzer Man versus the billionaire, and they're both going to be in Sacramento. And, of course, the Solentarists, the violent communist Solentarists, are raging out of control. They need to be put in their place, and the time will come they will be arrested for what they're doing. This is not protest. There is a huge difference between protest and riots. That's what a civilized society knows, and a civilized society enforces the laws. But when you have an uncivil president who encourages the uncivil riots, they are not arrested. After all, he had Black Lives Matter in the White House, didn't he? Didn't he also have the radicals from whatever it's called, Occupy, in the White House? Didn't Nancy Pelosi herself, one of the richest of all in Congress, have the nerve to say go out there and be a disruptor? They're causing these agitators to work on their behalf as street thugs. I told you this would happen a couple of books ago and Stop the Coming Civil War. I told you that the grifters on the Democrat side will use the street radicals as their armies in the street in order to keep you distracted from the money they're robbing through green energy scams, through windmill scams, you name it. I mean, they're robbing the Treasury blind. Meanwhile, they have you thinking that by going and rioting in the street, you're being a good progressive, but you're just being a stooge. You're just being a useful idiot. But don't worry, the day will come that when Donald Trump is president, you'll be put in your place, which is behind the prison bar, because that's not protest. That is rioting, and a civil society cannot stand it any more than a civil society or a civil order can stand poachers who are wiping out elephants or gorillas, for that matter. Now let's go to the caller. Susan on WABC, what would you have me ask Donald Trump?
Okay, I would have you ask, is he really going to stay in close touch with Kissinger? This disturbs me. I'm not a fan of Kissinger. I'm not a great historian, but I know that I don't like him. And your other...
Let's stop right there. I don't like Kissinger because I know his politics. Why don't you like Kissinger?
Well, I didn't like the way he handled Israel in the 73 war. I think he really almost brought them to the brink, and that made me very, very upset. I think he's an elitist.
Well, you know, calling someone an elitist is an oxymoron. What does it mean? If you're a leader, you're an elitist. Well, what are they? A man of the people?
Okay, you have me there. I feel that he's out of touch. I don't think that he's really someone at this point in time who should be directing someone who's currently on the world scene. I think he's had his time.
I think Kissinger's a senile old warmonger. I'll make it real simple for all of you out there. He stabbed our American troops in the back during the Vietnam War. He worked a deal behind their back while men were dying on the battlefield. Kissinger was out for glory, not for the sake of America. I never liked the man. He always gave me the creeps.
May I ask
He's a Machiavellian type of personality that the world has seen from the beginning of time. I have no idea why Donald Trump would listen to him, but I'm afraid that he's already inside the inner circle, frankly. I can't. Hey, look, Susan, I have very little, if not, I have zero influence over Donald Trump's campaign. You know that, Susan. I backed him from the beginning. I backed him before anyone else did, but that's about the extent of it. Who he picks is up to him. And you know what? By the way, he's doing so well that he figures his advisors are right. They're advising him correctly because his numbers keep going up.
But
The biggest mistake he could make, in my opinion, is not using Henry Kissinger in the background for advice, because I don't know that he'll have to follow the advice. I think Kissinger's just window dressing for the old guard that wants to believe that they're still relevant. His biggest mistake would be to pick Sarah Palin as a VP choice. A disaster. His second biggest mistake would be to pick the underminer, the Riptide, whatever his name is, the guy whose wife plays an instrument. I don't even remember his name. Everyone loves him. For some reason, people love that guy. What's it? Gingrich. Gingrich is like gingivitis. Every time I think of the word Gingrich, I think of gingivitis. It's a phrase, but the fact is, he's like the gingivitis of the political scene. Whenever he appears, something decays. Thanks for the call, Susan. 855-47. I don't know the number. I'm looking at something on the screen now. I want to start breaking things. Elephants could vanish from one of Africa's key reserves within 6 years. Elephant populations in Tanzania's Selous National Park could collapse unless poaching and mining are urgently controlled, says the World Wildlife Federation. Now, if you've listened to the show, you've known I've devoted a lot of resources of the family for elephant protection to no end. I don't know where the money goes. It got so bad that we were then only funding groups that funded ex-Navy SEALs who were hunting down and killing the poachers because that's the only thing that stopped them. The poachers don't care what you say about them in Brooklyn. The poachers don't care what you say about them in Los Angeles, in anyone's house. The poachers have to be put down because they're a danger to the world. 6 elephants are killed every day by poaching syndicates in Tanzania. 6 of these beautiful elephants killed every day by poaching syndicates, so low-life throwbacks in China can have a little memento on their little middle-class living room wall. The fact of the matter is, as I've told you on the show many times, killing off the wildlife is not only a moral travesty, it will have huge financial consequences for Tanzania, this throwback nation. Because this throwback nation gets $6 million in annual revenues just from the elephant reserve. And by killing off the elephants, the people living in the surrounding area will also suffer. Remember, you need a large wildlife population and pristine natural ecosystems in order to generate tourism. If you wipe out the elephants, if you degrade the habitat through mining and oil exploration, you'll kill tourism, you'll kill the ecosystem, and you'll kill off the human population. And that's why harmful industrial greed, harmful industrial activities need to be stopped. Poachers need to be executed in order for America, in order for the world to go forward. What good does me saying it do? Nothing. The only thing these people know is lethal force. And unfortunately, you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. The killing of poachers was eliminated by the Tanzanian government about a year ago. So they were bought off, as you all know. And therefore, I don't know what the hope may be. But every time I look at elephants, especially pictures of an elephant with her calf, and I realize how hard the survival is for these creatures in the wild, and I see that we as humans are such lowlifes that we're lower than an ant. Most human beings are actually lower than a rat. But don't get me started on my distaste for the human race. If you don't mind, I'll go into it another time. Because the human beings are not the highest of the animal species. Not after you see what they're doing to the elephants, to the gorillas, and to the other endangered species. And for those of you who say an elephant is no different than a cow, all I can say is I pity you. You have no concept of what you are talking about. You know, years ago there was a poem written, I don't know who wrote it, but he said during the eco-crisis of the 60s, he wrote that I am the eagle. When we saw that the eagles were dying because their eggs were cracking because of the use of DDT, people didn't understand the relationship between the eagle's death and their own death, meaning from cancer, for example. You don't understand that we have epidemics of various kinds of cancers and they don't come out of the thin air. These cancer epidemics are related to environmental degradation, environmental toxins, environmental poisons, including hair sprays, house sprays, food sprays, nose sprays, ear sprays, lawn sprays. They're all toxic. They're all killing you. Every time I see an ad for them, I say crime, 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 criminal, criminal, criminal. Every time I go into a house and smell an air freshener, I run out. Cancer causing. Every time I go in a car and smell an air freshener, I go out of the car. Cancer causing. Believe me, I've studied this for 40 years. I know what I'm talking about. But the fact of the matter is, when I was involved in that in the beginning, way back in the late 60s and early 70s, there was a poem that tried to explain that when the eagle's eggs were cracking because of DDT in the ecosystem, it did affect the average guy out there and the average woman. The man wrote, he said, I am the eagle. And what he was trying to say is, yes, you are the eagle. It's all an ecosystem. You are the eagle. When the eagle's egg cracks, it means that you're being poisoned as well. When the elephant is slaughtered by low-life murderers in Tanzania, they're killing you. Do you understand that? When a zoo kills a glorious creature like Harambe because a stupid mother was allowed into the zoo and allowed her child to climb the wall, that gorilla was you. You were Harambe. Do you understand that? You were shot dead in that park. You were killed because of a stupid mother that should never have had children. And I think I'll pause right there before I say something I really regret. This is the Savage Nation. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth and financial future. Call 1-800-289-2646. I am the eagle. I am the gorilla. I am the elephant. I am Michael Savage. And there's a little story that just came out here in California. There's a CEO of a company called Theranos, and her net worth was allegedly $9 billion. They said it was $9 billion. And it was a blood testing company of some kind. Well, it's a troubled company. And last month, 2 years worth of blood test results had to be voided from its machines. And now the Wall Street Journal says the company is worth zero, meaning that the CEO who founded it, Elizabeth Holmes, has a net worth of $0, according to Forbes. It's an interesting story. And yet she's been lauded as a great American, role model. There she is with Katie Couric. Shows you what league she's in. Amy Schumer, another great prize of humanity. There she is with another great prize of humanity, speaking with Joe Biden, the great genius. Anyway, I never heard of her. Founder and CEO of Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes, now has a net worth of $0, according to Forbes. I don't know what it was. I don't even know what they did. Blood testing, I have no idea. But they raised $900 million. $724 million that it raised. Can you imagine what's going on in the world? You probably can't raise the money to pay your Visa card. But if you come up with a fake company that doesn't do anything and you call it a high-tech company and you know how to go to networking with Google executives, there's $900 million for you right there. Her 50% stake in Theranos was now worth nothing because she owns common stock and would get paid out after investors who own preferred shares, according to VC experts. So even if Theranos were liquidated, she would be unlikely to see any of that $800 million. I'm not happy about it. I don't know her. I have no idea who she is. I'm just showing you what's going on in these boom and bust times, right? A patient reportedly went to the emergency room based on a blood test that Theranos had to retract. So there's a lot of fraud out there in the startup business. San Francisco is filled with startup kids, and nobody knows what they're starting up. And that's why I sometimes play the Rolling Stones' Start Me Up, because it's about the same level as half the companies in San Francisco, their songs. Now, speaking of San Francisco, no, I better not read anything about the immigrants that are coming in here. But here's a somewhat related story from the Investors Business Daily. Germs multiply while CDC fiddles. Really? You're kidding me. You mean people at the CDC are not doing their job and should be held accountable? You mean CDC Director Thomas Frieden is a fraud and should be tried for crimes against America? I don't think so. He's a very nice man. He knows how to put on a suit and tie, and he knows how to mumble how everything's under control. Germs multiply while CDC fiddles. Well, it's a long story. From Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden Facebook page. Cincinnati Zoo is devastated by death of beloved gorilla. The child's okay, though. The mom is doing well. The mom will soon be on Good Morning America to show what child rearing should be like. The Real Housewives of the Cincinnati Zoo, I hear, is a series in production by the Solenterates of Beverly Hills. The Real Housewives of the Cincinnati Zoo revealed for the first time ever the A-list stars of Notorious Madam's Black Book. Do you really want to hear this? Who cares? The biggest secret in Hollywood for more than 2 decades has exploded. For the first time, RadarOnline.com has ripped wide open the infamous and long-feared Little Black Book of top Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss. Fleiss is... who cares? So we're supposed to see who they got hookers from? Until now, the only name publicly identified was HIV-positive train wreck Charlie Sheen. Now they've seen all of the others on the list. I'm not going to read them to you because, first of all, just because their names are in the book doesn't mean that they actually procured a prostitute. That's number one. And anyone could have written anyone's name in there. What does it really matter if they wrote a name in there? I mean, if they wrote in Mick Jagger, Jack Nicholson, Sean Penn, Nicolas Cage, does it mean that Nick Jagger, Nick Nicholson, I don't know their name, Nicolas Cage, Sean Penn, Jack Nicholson, and Mick Jagger actually procured prostitutes from them? And just because those named in the book, Johnny Depp, George Lucas, Hugh Hefner, Rockabilly Idol, Stephen Tisch, Stephen Bing, O.J. Simpson defense attorneys, does it really mean that they got hookers from them just because their name is in the book? Maybe someone just wrote their names in there. So I'm not going to read their names and associate them with this book. I would say we have no evidence that any of them actually procured prostitutes from the Notorious Madam. I think this could just be a hype to sell a book of some kind. So I'm not even going to read this on the air. Whoops, I guess I just did. But there's no association, is what I'm saying. So later on, Donald Trump will be on. We'll do some serious business on the show. And I want some of the Hillary supporters to call. Why would you vote for this woman as president? I could see a valid Democrat who loves America, but how could you vote for a woman who gave us the Arab Spring, which caused the refugee crisis? How could you give us a woman who has been tainted with scandal from the day she appeared on the political landscape and blamed it on the vast right-wing conspiracy? Have you no shame, you progressives? So you'll tell me you want the Seltzer man cometh? You want Bernie, the communist Seltzer man, to be president? What are his qualifications? Well, what is Bernie Sanders qualified for? Call me if you're a Bernie supporter. Tell me what you think he's going to do for you. That's all. Let's have some fun on the show. WABC Mike, what would you have me ask Donald Trump when he comes up on the show today?
Yeah, Donald Trump was always a big friend of union labor, and we never forget that in New York. I would like for you to ask him if he could bring the Keystone Pipeline project back on the table.
That's a very big one. It's 100% a good question. I mean, everybody wants the Keystone Pipeline except the morons who are riding in the streets.
That's true.
All right, Mike, I'll put that right on the list. Guys, put it up. I'm going to ask Donald Trump that. One of the first questions will be Mike's question. Will you fast track the pipeline? Yeah, start me up. Go ahead. Make my day. I just got warmed up. It's hour number 1. It's the warm-up hour on the show. It's early for me. It's like the middle of the night. Noon to 1 is on the West Coast, like a middle of the night for me. It's the Savage Nation, my friends. Trump in the Bay Area for a rally on the Savage Nation. What do you want me to ask him?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. 8-SAVAGE. Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Talk radio for the thinking person, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
I want my country back. I want my country back. I want deportation buses running south. I want planes filled with illegal aliens flying in every direction, northeast, west, and south. I want them out of my country. I want my country back. Here is a story that should get even the most insane progressive alarmed. Because as I have told you, no matter how left-wing you are, no matter how much you hate America, no matter how much you want to remake this nation in the image of God knows what, microbes do not discriminate. They don't care whether you're a good liberal. They don't care if you're a member of the Communist Party USA. They will infect you just as fast as they'll infect the most radical right-winger in the United States of America. We have an insane anti-American president. I live by those words. Here is the story. Baby born in U.S. to Honduran mom. I love the word mom. I love the word mom. Everything's a mom. The one who dropped the baby into the gorilla was a mom. This is another mom. Just like your mother and grandmother. Same hardworking, conscientious person. Baby born in U.S. to Honduran mom with Zika has birth defect. You know what this is going to cost you, you morons? A Honduran woman infected with Zika gave birth in New Jersey now, to a baby girl with birth defects caused by the virus. The infant is the second born in the United States with birth defects. The first was born in Hawaii to a woman who had lived in Brazil, where the Zika epidemic began in the Americas. Now, wait, it gets even better. The Honduran woman's baby was delivered by cesarean section at Hackensack University Medical Center, said Dr. Abdullah Al-Khan. Dr. Abdullah Al-Khan, the hospital director of maternal fetal medicine and surgery. It gets even better. The doctor said the 31-year-old mom was diagnosed with Zika in her native Central American hellhole, where the virus has spread. But she traveled to New Jersey, where she has family, to seek further treatment. Well, let me stop right there. Her family lives here? You mean her legal family lives in New Jersey, the ones brought in the day before by the criminal in the White House? Let me ask you a question. If you had a herd of livestock, let's say you had 100 cows, would you bring an infected cow into that herd and not expect the herd to get sick? I'll start again for those of you who are so stupid that even you could follow this. You have a herd of 100 healthy cows, and you work every day to make sure that they don't get diseases. Would you bring a cow with hoof and mouth disease into that herd unless you were insane and wanted to destroy the herd? I'm a trained epidemiologist, but it doesn't take a PhD from the University of California to understand what I just said to you. My dog could understand it. So therefore, we have a question on our hands. Why does the criminal in the White House continue to infect the healthy population in the United States of America? But the bigger question is, how does the criminal in the White House get away with it? That's the bigger question. Because microbes do not exist. Microbes can infect Katie Couric. Microbes can infect Jake Tapper. Microbes can infect Wolf Blitzer. The Praetorian Guard in the press is not immune to a virus or to a bacteria, Teddy. And any sane society would stop a madman before he kills everybody. How's that for an opening? I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying it, because I'm not. My guts are being torn out every time I open a website and I see what this madman is allowing to happen. I don't understand how it goes on. I don't understand how he's not taken out of the White House and arrested immediately. I think he's fundamentally, functionally insane. Personally. You know, some of the most insane people look sane. You do know that. You think everyone who's crazy has to be foaming at the lips and running around with a hatchet in their hand? Some of them can wear a suit and tie and play golf. They could be insane. They could be functionally insane. And that's what a democracy is supposed to do, is protect itself. It's supposed to have checks and balances from a madman. A man with a diseased mind who hates the country. A man who brings in infected people. How in the world is this good for America? How can you open borders, people, not see what you're doing to your own country? I agonize over this every day. Every day I agonize over it. And by the way, this is tied directly into Donald Trump's rise. First thing he said he would do is build a wall. I'll help lay the bricks. He builds that wall. I'll volunteer to go to the border. I'll be one of the masons on the border. But he shouldn't have to use me. He should use the illegal aliens to build the wall. And they should send the bill to Mexico in the form of oil payments. 1 barrel of oil for every illegal alien per year that they've been here. That would settle a lot of our debt problem immediately. I called for it 3 books ago. I repeated it in Government Zero. Oh, yeah, 1 barrel of oil per illegal? Let's see, there's approximately 36 million illegals. I love they keep giving the number. The 11 million illegals in America, that's a number now for 10 years. It's metastasized to at least 3 times. Probably 40 million minimum. 40 million are here illegally. 40 million barrels a year of oil is what Mexico owes us. But then again, we have to make sure Donald Trump really builds that wall. Then he said he would stop Muslims from coming to America until we can figure this thing out. Who would bring Muslims in from Syria who are not vetted properly unless they wanted them to cause harm to our society? We already know terrorists are coming through the Mexican border. Everybody knows that. Ask the Border Patrol. Who but a man who has a desire to undermine and destroy a nation would do that to a nation? I've been preaching to this message for 20 some odd years. Borders, language, and culture. You know, eventually a man gets tired of preaching the same message and seeing no results. A man gets tired of repeating the same truth over and over and over and being castigated by the Salentarists in the media who criticized me, who crucified me for this message. And yet most of the American people agree with me on this message. The doctor said the 31-year-old mom was diagnosed with Zika in her native Central American hellhole where the virus has spread. She traveled to New Jersey, where she has family, to seek further treatment. Now, who do you think pays for that treatment, you idiots, you? Why do you think your medical system has gone from a first world system to a second world system in the last few years? And if you think that this is where it ends, you're mistaken. See, I've used emergency rooms where I live. I don't have a physician. Do you know that I don't have a doctor at my age? You know, people don't believe me that. Who's your GP? I don't have one. Who's your primary care physician? I don't have one. What drugs are you on? I don't have any. Not on any. They look at me like they turn around from the chart on the wall. They don't look at the patients anymore, the great doctors of today. No, they're staring at a wall, a chart on a wall. You're sitting shivering in a paper sheet. And they're staring at a wall with a pencil on a board. Well, let's see, what medications are you on? None. Who's your primary care physician? None. That's why I'm here, you old. The reason I'm in the emergency room is because I don't have a primary care physician, you old. This is what you call me? I said, yold. That's a German word for genius. I said the streets are paved with yolds in America. What does that mean? They used to say the streets are paved with gold. No, the streets are paved with yolds. It's a joke. Unfortunately, most people don't get my jokes. Only those who like guys who rub their faces in cornflakes like those jokes. So Donald Trump will be with us on the show. We're going to ask him some questions. We're going to talk more on the guerrilla shootings. We're going to talk about infectious diseases surging in the USA and why Obama's not been arrested, why the head of the CDC is not in handcuffs. And I will direct you to my great little ebook, Diseases Without Borders, in case you're interested in fortifying your own immune system for very little money, by the way. And we're going to have some positive stories on Teddy and Me. Have you read Teddy and Me? What was your favorite story in there? To get away from the news and gloom that we're facing here. How do you escape the horrible news in this country? Why do we give the media a pass as they're destroying this country? I'm glad Donald Trump stood up to them, by the way. Teddy and Me for Father's Day is a great idea. Let's go to the callers. KSFO, San Francisco, line 4. Thomas, what's on your mind? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the Fiddler's Three, Biden, Obama, and Clinton, sit around fiddling while America burns.
All right, please. You talk about the streets are paved with yolds. Thanks, call screener. Good job. That was a great opening to hour 2. Terrific job for pre-screening that caller. I have the best call screener in the history of the radio show. Let's go to some of the callers out there who may be there and see if they'll really talk. Blake on KSFO, line 1. Go ahead, please. What's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going? I was calling because I wanted you to ask a question to Trump for me. Specifically, I was hoping you could ask him about why he backed out of the debate with Bernie Sanders.
Okay, and?
That's actually the question I want you to ask him.
No, okay, I'll ask him that. Let me ask you this. You're a sane man. Why would you vote for a liar like Bernie Sanders? You know he can't deliver on his promises.
Well, you think about liars. You talk about Hillary's out there as an option, and Trump is out there as an option.
No, let's stick to your side of the aisle. Would you vote for Hillary when she's a known liar?
Politics. They've been in business.
I asked you a question. This is my show, not yours. Would you vote for Hillary, who is a known criminal liar?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
All right, so you're going for the straight-out socialist communist Bernie Sanders? You know he can't deliver on his promises, so why would you vote for him?
Well, that's like saying that Trump can't deliver on his promises.
No. Let's stick to your side of the aisle. Stick with your side of the aisle, not mine. Why would you vote for a man who you know cannot deliver on his promises? Where has socialism delivered on his promises?
Well, you talk about social security, you talk about national parks, you talk about fire departments, military. These are all social,
I know, please, don't lecture to me what's the obvious. Let's get into the specifics. What is Bernie Sanders promising that you think he can deliver on? Tell me your number one priority for voting for the phony Seltzer man.
Well, I think he can help get money out of politics, and he can prevent us from these disastrous trade agreements, along with invasions of, places around the world where we have no business being, and putting our military lives at risk.
Oh, I see. So he's an anti-war man, Bernie, is he? So how would you constrain the Islamo-fascists who would blow you up as well as me?
How would I restrain them? Well,
it's a simple question. Why do you have to repeat it?
I think it's safe to say that what we're doing over there right now...
No. How would you constrain the Islamo-fascists who would blow you up at a supermarket as fast as me and blow up a pregnant mother? How would you stop them?
Well, I think the first step to doing so is giving the society and people in it knowledge to be aware of their surroundings. That's the first...
Well, what does that mean? Where did you learn that? What school did you go to? University of Passaic? What do you mean knowledge of their surroundings? They've been killing each other for 1,000 years. They blow each other up in mosques. What do you want them to learn from you? Why do you think? Why are they blowing each other up since the 11th century? Do you know why the Sunnis kill the Shiites and the Shiites kill the Sunnis? Do you know anything about the basics of Islamofascism?
Well,
No, don't give me all you can. You're not in a college dorm right now. Why have the Shiites been killing the Sunnis and vice versa since the 11th century? Can you give me that answer?
Is not helping the issue at all. The answer to
please, sir, this is not your classroom. I'm not grading you on an essay for a communist teacher. Answer the question. That will help you evolve as a student of reality. Why have the Sunnis and Shia been killing each other since the 11th century?
Well, I could probably say, my best guess, because I don't actually know. I'm hoping you could maybe tell me.
It's probably because Israel, right? Israel caused them to kill each other since the 11th century. Would that be your answer?
My best guess at this would probably be that they have. It's part of their law that if someone opposes them, then they have the right to kill them. So it's probably based.
You really have no knowledge of history, do you? But you're an expert on how to control the Islamo-fascists. And what, you want to bring more of them in here? Is that what you want to do? Bring more Muslims in?
Absolutely not.
All right. Look, you know what? Hell was defined by a wise man as a place where there is no reason, and I choose not to live in that place. And so I would say goodbye. Have a nice life, because you're never getting on the show again. Go vote. Do me a favor. Vote for Bernie the Seltzer man. Do me a favor. Vote for Bernie the Seltzer man. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now. 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. The only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUYCOIN. The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. That's the Bernie voters, right? The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries. Winston Churchill. Now, all of you college boys out there who are naive and don't know anything about the real world, you don't know why Shia and Sunnis have killed each other for 1,000 years. You don't know why socialism fails. You don't know why your president shouldn't be bringing in people infected with diseases into a healthy population. You don't know any of these things. So let's make it simple for you. Here, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I wouldn't know. See, I don't know. Yesterday the show blew up from a lightning strike. Today I had a caller who wasn't there. Now I get a bumper music. I don't even know if I'm still on the air. Yes or no? Oh, good. Thanks, Robert. Nice to know. It was a bumper, meaning I was not on the air. So, look at South America. Look what socialism has wrought in Venezuela. They're fighting over a loaf of bread. That's socialism in action. Now, many of you don't know any of this. You think communism, socialism, and liberalism are good for a society because you haven't learned that socialism eats away a society by one, killing economic growth. Do you understand that? John F. Kennedy, a great Democrat, said a rising tide in the economy lifts all boats. He was not a socialist. He was a Democrat who loved America, unlike the vermin that we have now running the Democrat Party. But socialism kills economic growth by penalizing success and rewarding failure. By stealing from the successful people to give to the losers, it encourages people to give up, and it leads more people to fail. It leads to a South American system. Do you understand that? It stifles free speech. Look at your college campuses, which have become mini North Koreas. That's what happens when they're run by socialists. I'll be back. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
So we're talking about how socialism destroys societies, and the best example of it, I'm not going to use North Korea. That's the most obvious. It's a Hitlerian state, but I wouldn't use that because it would be absurd, would be what happened in Argentina. I'm sorry, in Venezuela, pardon me. Chavez took a beautiful society that was thriving and promised what Bernie Sanders is promising, equality, fairness, the end of corruption. And it destroyed the society. The middle class fled the nation. They fled the nation. And now the next one came along, the next criminal socialist, again promising fairness and equality. And gangs are now killing each other for a loaf of bread. They're running around killing each other. There's nothing left for people to eat there. So what happens is socialism kills economic growth. And as I quoted before, John F. Kennedy said, a rising tide in the economy lifts all boats. On the other hand, socialism strangles economic growth because it penalizes success and it rewards failure. That's Obama. Obama attacks successful people. He has losers, failures in the White House, one after the other. He wants to loot the successful people, to give it to, for example, people on welfare, illegal immigrants who is bringing in who don't even work. And what that does is it kills people's desire to even work. It punishes success and rewards failure. And that leads to a cycle. And that leads to the more successful being penalized more to pay for the losers. And the more that the successful are penalized, the fewer successful the people, the fewer there are successful people. And what happens is the economy slows down and more people need help. It goes on and on and on. They raise taxes, just like Jerry Brown is doing in California. That's what killed the original Soviet Union. It's what killed Greece. It's what's killing the United States. It's what's killing Western Europe. And to couple that with bringing in diseased illegal immigrants, as Obama is doing, is not only suicidal, it's homicidal. Socialism, my dear young friends, also stifles free speech. Take a look at colleges today, which are being run by communists who call themselves liberals and progressives in the United States. Why do they block and disrupt conservative speakers? Why are there extreme speech codes in Canada and the United States which make opposition points of view illegal? Why does speaking out against progressivism lead the United States onto the road of China or the Soviet Union? Because socialism requires propaganda, it requires intimidation, it requires protection in order for it to survive. Socialism cannot survive daylight. Socialism cannot survive honest debate about its qualities or its lack of qualities, because it would not survive any such conversation. As Ronald Reagan said, how do you tell a communist? Well, it's someone who reads Marx and Lenin. And how do you tell an anti-communist? It's someone who understands Marx and Lenin. It's really quite simple. Socialism also leads to an increasingly tyrannical government. Look at what Obama is doing behind the scenes, tightening the noose on our freedoms, having the spying agencies spy on the American people, putting in speech laws and threatening anyone who criticizes Muslims, for example, which is the first thing that the Attorney General did when she was given that power, handpicked by a criminal from the gutters of New York. And socialism also requires a massive bureaucracy, massive propaganda. Socialism creates strife and division. It turns people against each other. That's how it survives, by dividing and conquering. Socialists believe that the ends justify the means, like the pigs in Orwell's Animal Farm. I can go on and continue what the left wing really believes in and what it really does, and that's why socialism is to be avoided at all costs. That's why Bernie Sanders is the most dangerous liar in the history of American politics. He would destroy the society as sure as a cancer virus destroys a healthy body. Donald Trump will be with us sometime on this show today. It may be by the end of this hour or the beginning of the next hour. I'm not exactly sure. He's giving a speech right now. And if you have any questions for Donald Trump, I will try to ask him some of these questions. We're also taking calls on the gorilla shooting. We're talking about infectious diseases surging in the U.S. We're talking about the book Teddy and Me. Let's take some of the callers on the program. WMAL, Washington, D.C. Garrett, line 4. What's on your mind?
Yes, I would like to have a question asked to Donald Trump regarding the immigration of Cubans. Now that President Obama has normalized relationships, will President Trump kind of repeal basically the Cuban Adjustment Act, making it more a level playing field for immigrants coming in from Cuba? Because right now,
so I take it you oppose the new Mariel boat lift.
The new, yeah, absolutely. I think it's only
you oppose the flood of criminals coming in from Cuba right now. I assume you oppose Castro dumping his refuse on us.
And special accommodations being made for them to come in.
Well, why does Obama reach out for the refuse from Cuba? Why does he reach out for Zika-infected moms and bring them into hospitals here in America? What are they trying to do? They're not trying to increase the health of the nation. They're trying to weaken the nation, aren't they? What are they doing this for?
I wish I had a...
Well, all right, so there's your question. The question has an answer built into it. Thank you for the call. By the way, I'm sending you a copy of Teddy and Me. 855-407-282, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-407-282. WABC Frank, line 7 from New York City. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mr. Savage. I'm one of the Persians that just came to this country before the Shah. And this is the same thing Khomeini promised the people in the country, that he's going to give them everything for free, and everybody falls for those kind of garbage. And this is exactly what Bernie Sanders is doing to this country.
Frank, you see it. People from the ex-Soviet Union see it. Asian people I meet who came from Vietnam or China or any of the other Southeast Asian nations all understand who Bernie Sanders is, who Hillary is, who the Democrats are. They're all staunch conservatives. They believe in freedom. They believe in the free market. It's the naive, stupid college children and the tenured professors and government workers who support Bernie Sanders. You know that, don't you?
100%, Mr. Savage. One more thing that I would like to tell you about. I remember there's a documentary, you can go Google it, from the Shah. When he was in power, the first thing they asked him, they said, what dangers has America has? You know what he said? This was about 45 years ago. He said the danger to this country is the media. That's going to bring down the government of the United States. And
that's correct. That's why Donald Trump is the only hope for America, because he should criminalize the criminals in the media who have undermined America at every turn. They've lied about everyone who stands for this nation's proud history and for its borders, language, and culture. I've been castigated for 22 years. I would love to see them prosecuted for lying about me and everyone else. Yes, there should be consequences for lies, and there should be no immunity whether you wear a press badge or not. I don't care what your badge is. You have no right to destroy a man simply because you have a press badge. 1,000% right. How many years have I said that it's the media that has destroyed America? Have you heard me say it 1,000 times on this show over the last 10 years?
You're right, Mr. Savage. I've been listening to you for many, many years, and I'm so upset because in Chicago on WLS they put you at 9 o'clock at night, but they forced me to listen.
No, I understand. Well, you're going to be more upset in the very near future, and I may have to go to another place at some point with my message. And that's all I can say at this time, Frank. I'm sending you a copy of Teddy and Me. Let me put it to you this way. Truth does not necessarily thrive in an increasingly restricted society. Very often the truth is killed from within. And make no mistake about it, wherever I am and whenever it may happen, you will still be able to hear me. I can guarantee you they're not going to silence me no matter what they may do to me. I'll just leave it at that for now. We got a few more months to worry about these things. And at that time, I will tell you how you can find me if I am no longer heard on your favorite station. Or I will retire. One or the other. It's that simple. Okay, I didn't even mean to go in that direction right now, but there's only so much I can hold in at any one time. Let me put it to you this way. I'll either do one thing and reach you another way, or I'll retire and that'll be the end of it. You can read my books, and I'll walk around with my dog, and you'll never hear from me again. Because at a certain point, I just don't care. If they want to destroy free speech, and they want to use every excuse under the sun to do so, I cannot help them from doing that. I do not control what happens in the greater picture of the media. The media is who has destroyed this country, and the media is now working behind the scenes to destroy me. That's all I'm going to say to you at this time. I'll take a break and be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUI-COIN. I know many of you have been listening all day waiting for the next president of the United States to appear on this program, and we've received confirmation that he will be here at 5 minutes after the hour of the next hour, so be sure to stay tuned. If your station turns off the show, I can't help it. Deal with the program directors. Don't deal with me. It's not my problem. Now, let's go to some of the callers. David on WABC, line 4. What's on your mind, David? Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Savage. I've been a loyal listener to you guys for about probably 3 or 4 years, and I'm probably a moderate Democrat. You'd probably classify me as a liberal. I don't agree with a lot of what you had to say, but I think it's really important to listen to the other side of the aisle. But I could not agree more with you about the Zika virus coming into the United States. This is a very scary thing, and I really believe that it presents a national security risk. We're admitting in a terrible disease that now we're...
Oh, there's a headline. Baby born in U.S. to Honduran mom with Zika has a birth defect. Why would Obama permit this infected Honduran woman to fly to New Jersey and bring in this baby? Why would he allow that to happen? As I said before, if you owned a herd of cattle, would you bring an infected cow into the herd unless you wanted to kill the herd? Does this make common sense to you, what I'm saying?
I'm an ICU nurse. This is like bringing in cattle that has foot and mouth disease. This is a very, very scary thing, and I would never say that he intentionally allowed something or encouraged something like this, but there aren't safeguards to prevent this sort of thing.
Wait, you just said, hold it, you said something interesting. You said you wouldn't say that Obama was doing this on purpose. But if you and I, average people, are talking about it, and he's the president of the United States and has the power to stop these infected immigrants from coming in, why is he not stopping them?
I guess that's a question for the ages. I mean, there has not been precautions.
He's told the agents to stand down. He's told the Border Patrol they can't do their job. He's told them to make sure that they come in. He has criticized the Border Patrol for interfering with their desire to come in. So you have to assume he knows what they're coming here for. Free health care, free welfare, you name it. What in the world are we supposed to do as a nation if we have a rogue president?
That's a good question, and it's to be debated by greater minds than I, but...
No, you're a great mind. You're an ICU nurse. You know a lot more than I do about online health treatment, and you see it first hand. You see the diseased people in those emergency rooms. You see them coming in. Of course you would come to a nation that's foolish enough to open their doors and treat you for hundreds of thousands of dollars for nothing. Of course you'd want to run there. But at the end of the day, someone has to pay for it. Who is that? The American taxpayer. And at the same time you're paying for the treatment of these people on a humanitarian basis, the entire health system degrades and goes from a first world health system to a second world health system, eventually becomes a third world health system. This is what is happening under this president, which is why I support Donald Trump. It is not because I personally know the man or I think that he's God. It's because he's the only one who said he might stop this, David. Do you understand that?
Oh, I understand that. I think that should be the priority of any presidential candidate, however. And I personally do not support Mr. Trump for other reasons, but there's no candidate out there that I particularly like. I think it's a very dismal election season characterized by xenophobia.
Oh, wait, you know that Hillary stands for more of the Zika babies. Why would you vote for someone who would do more harm to the health system?
Oh, I'm terrified of my party's candidates either, also. I'm not holding a candle up to them either, but I wanted to comment on...
Look, okay, so wait a minute. If you don't vote for anyone, what do you think will happen?
Oh, I know that argument. I know. It's just a scary proposition, all the gentlemen...
So here's what I say. If one candidate is going to give you some protection from the Islamo-fascists, from the Zika infected, you take what you can get from him. What is it that he's actually said that offends you? Let's say as a progressive, if you want to put yourself in that category, what has Donald Trump said that really offends you?
Well, I've watched the majority of the debates, and I don't like his seemingly at random lashings out, even to people at his own party. I don't like how he's a negotiator. He's a businessman. He's clearly built a large personal fortune doing this. But to be sitting at a dinner table or a conference room speaking to other world leaders and just to arbitrarily cast out disparaging names and derogatory insults to people.
Well, wait a minute. Look what they've done to us. Look what they have done to this nation from all of the polite professionals over the years. They've basically done what they've wanted. China's out-traded us. Mexico's dumped their pour on us. You name it. We're not getting anywhere with politeness. Because behind the scenes, behind that politeness is a man with a knife. Do you understand that? We need a tough street fighter to put them in their place and put America first. That's how I see it. That's why I support Donald Trump. Again, I don't know the man personally, but we need a tough guy who's willing to stand up to these gangsters with nice suits. Let me send you Teddy and me, Confessions of a Service Human. We're almost out of time. And I think that's a great call we just had, liberal Democrat. He agrees with me about Zika screening and about the healthcare system. Doesn't like Donald Trump for, let's say, personality reasons. And I, on the other hand, like an abrasive personality who's in favor of putting America first. Because it's the only way you're going to put our enemies in their place. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Politeness, of course, gets us nothing. You know, there's a saying, nice guys finish last. Boy, was that ever true when that was written. But I've actually changed to something else, which is nice guys don't finish at all. It's as simple as that. And if you think Obama's a nice guy, man, you need a psychiatrist. If you actually buy his act, you really, really are naive. If you have a question for Donald Trump, I'm afraid you can't get on the show right now because the lines are just jammed out. Baby born in U.S. to Honduran mom with Zika has birth defect. They flew her into New Jersey to deliver a baby even though they knew she was infected. And the baby was delivered at great cost through cesarean section. And the baby has birth defects. What do you think that is going to cost you in tax dollars? Why was she allowed to come in from Honduras? Why? I'll let you figure out who's running the country. And then you'll understand why Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. He will be with us 5 minutes after the hour. Just got confirmation again. The answer is yes.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Talk radio for the thinking person, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Savage States of America.
Me, I used to be the President of the Savage States of America. I'm going to turn the baton over to Donald Trump when he becomes President, and I will sail off into the sunset. But the thing is, they have confirmed that he will be here. We are awaiting his arrival at the Savage Studios to answer your questions. There's been a long hiatus between Donald Trump's last appearance on the show, but I assure you he will be here momentarily, so hang in there. The main topic that we are talking about today is that Obama is bringing in Zika-infected pregnant women into the United States. It doesn't matter to me whether you're the most flaming progressive in the universe. Because even a progressive understands that if you have a healthy herd of cattle and you bring in a cow with hoof and mouth disease, you will infect the herd. Now, why would a president go out of his way to bring in a Zika-infected pregnant woman to New Jersey, for example? That's a big question, and it's one that we are discussing on the program. We're also sitting here hurt over the killing of that gorilla. At the same time, we're talking about the fact that elephants could vanish from one of Africa's key reserves within 6 years because of the greed and stupidity of humankind. We're also talking about the latest picture from Europe, which is that jihadis are stockpiling explosives in Europe. And more Muslim immigrants are being brought in by Angela Merkel and the other insane progressives. Some of them are planning to destroy the societies that are welcoming them. These are some of the topics, my friends, that we're talking about. An earlier article on the program was Obama bringing in flesh-eating bacteria to Europe and the United States with refugees. There are so many stories that are worthy of discussion on the program. I also gave you a little capsule history of socialism in action, where in Venezuela, armed squads are now killing people in order to steal food. This was once a thriving middle-class nation that elected a Bernie Sanders. It was a nation that had a Bernie Sanders come along and promised them everything for free. What happened was what happens in every socialist nation. The successful people are punished, the losers are rewarded, and eventually the society dies. If you care to join the conversation, the phone number is 855-400-7282. Let's go to some of the callers. KSFO, Mary, line 8. We may have to drop the callers the minute Donald Trump appears. Mary, go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, thank you so much. I think that Obama brought in these Zika people and the tuberculosis-infested people. He just showed his hand. He asked for $1.9 billion. So he skims his cut off the top. He pays his cronies, and then he pretends that the government is here to save them from a crisis that he created. It's despicable and it's evil.
Well, you're not implying that the president is putting money in his pocket, are you?
Absolutely. He didn't come in with any money, and look at it.
Well, no, that's absolutely not true, because that would be too obvious. He's not stealing any money. What's happening here is that corrupt organizations like Catholic Charities are getting billions of dollars for this and things like that, but it's not going into his pocket. Donald Trump is with us. Thanks for the call. Mr. Trump, welcome to the Savage Nation. Here we go. Donald Trump. Everybody's been waiting. Donald, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us on the Savage Nation, Mr. Trump.
Yes, hello.
Donald, thank you for being here on the Savage Nation. It's a great honor.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Been a long time, and I know you're in the neighborhood right now. You have a rally up tonight in Sacramento, right?
I do, a big one. We're going to have a lot of people. I'm getting ready to head out.
Donald, I have a couple of direct questions for you. Would you really build that wall? People are wondering if you've modified your stand on building the wall between us and Mexico.
No, I haven't. You need it. You know, I just was endorsed 2 weeks ago by the Border Patrol and 16,500 people. And I asked them the question. You know, they were up in that. It was an honor to be endorsed. They've never endorsed a presidential candidate. And I asked them the question. I said, let me ask you folks, and these are the people that really know better than anybody, how important is the wall? They said, very important, Mr. Trump. It's a tool. It's another tool that we use, but it maybe is the most important tool. And it's very, very important, especially in terms of drug traffic. We need the wall, Mr. Trump, 100%. So, you know, I'd like to get assurance, even though I want to do it anyway, but I'd like to get assurance. And getting assurance from the Border Patrol, 16,500 people endorsed me, and they said the wall was very important.
No, I agree, and they're great guys, and their hands have been tied by Obama. You know, what's interesting is since you came out with this whole program, even the Dalai Lama, a hero of the progressive left, came out yesterday and said that you cannot Arabize Europe. You're going to destroy Europe by bringing in all these Muslims from the Middle East. That's the Dalai Lama. Have you heard that, Mr. Trump? Have you seen that change?
But I've heard me, and I tell you, you're going to destroy Europe. Germany's going down. They're all going down. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable what's happening in Europe.
Donald Trump, would you fast-track the Keystone Oil pipeline via executive order? America really wants it and needs it.
I will fast-track it. It's going to be done quickly. I do think we should make a better deal, though, because, you know, look, it's going to get done, but I think we should take a piece of it for the country. In other words, they can't do it without us, as you know, tremendous eminent domain. Remember what these guys used to say, but Trump likes eminent domain. But, you know, you wouldn't build 10 feet of the Keystone Pipeline, as an example, without eminent domain. You need it. But because we're using our powers and because without our country they can't do it, I think we should get like 25% of the profits going to the American people, in addition to getting it done. So let them pay a percentage of the profit to the, to the American, reduce taxes, in other words.
Wait, you're talking about the oil's coming from the Alberta tar sands going to our refinery. So you're saying take the profits from whom, Mr. Trump?
The people that have the pipeline, that own the pipeline.
I see.
The people that...
Well, look, I'm bringing up obscure points, but look, what would your first priority be as president? You must have organized your priorities. What's your number one item?
Number one would be knock out some of the executive orders from Obama, and especially the executive order on the border, which, as you know, is now all tied up in litigation.
Yes.
Where everybody can just come into the country like we don't have a border. That would be one of the first things. And lots of economic development jobs. I'd want to start Keystone right away. I'd want to start various other things right away. We need jobs. Other things is I'd contact countries and I'd say, folks, we love protecting you. We want to continue to protect you, but they're not living up to their bargain. You know, you're talking about billions and billions of dollars, Michael, numbers that you wouldn't even believe. But they're not living up to their bargain. And, you know, we cannot continue to be the policeman for the world. Now, I don't mind, but they have to pay. They have to pay. If you look at the NATO countries, they're not, 28 countries, they're not living up to what they're supposed to be living up to. They're not paying what they're supposed to be paying, which is very little, by the way. So what are we supposed to get into World War III over a country that doesn't respect us enough to even pay what they're supposed to be paying? So I get out of that too, Michael. We will become a very strong country again.
Donald, there's an article today that's so shocking. A baby born in the United States in New Jersey to a Honduran mom with Zika was born with a birth defect in Newark. They flew her in knowing the mother was infected with Zika. She went to Newark, New Jersey, delivered the baby. The poor baby has a birth defect. How can a country survive with a president who brings in diseased immigrants? This is not about compassion. You have to have compassion for the healthy population. Why is he doing this, Mr. Trump?
Well, is this a family that's now going to stay in the United States, I guess, right? They're not going to go back. Are they not going back to Honduras?
I guess they're using the whole family reunification program. And that brings us to the issue of what are we going to do with a system that is set up to fail like this. And I hope that you do build a wall, meaning I know you want to, but God knows you're going to hit opposition. I had a caller in the last hour who said, oh, I like Donald Trump on many issues, but I won't vote for him because he's so gruff. I said, well, take a look at what nice guys have gotten us. They've run all over us. They've made us into fools. We need someone who's tough, who knows how to negotiate with China and with Mexico, with South Korea and other places. Maybe I made some sense on that point, but I'm in favor of the tough approach in negotiation because nothing else seems to work, and I think you know that.
It doesn't work, Michael, and unless we're going to get smart. It's not even tough. We have to get smart, and we're being so stupid as what's going on. You look at our trade policies with China and with all these countries, we can't go on like this. We're losing a trade deficit with China, $505 billion a year. I mean, we can't go on like this. How is a country going to survive even like this? We're losing our jobs. Mexico's taking everything. Mexico's taking everything out, and they're taking our businesses, and China's taking our jobs. They're taking our money. They're devaluing their currency, and they're making it impossible for our businesses to compete with their businesses. And we can't go on like this. No, I'm not a gruff person. Hey, I went to an Ivy League school. I did very nicely. I'm not gruff.
All right, maybe they were talking about me. Yeah. Maybe they were talking about me, but you're not going to make me your number one trade negotiator because I'm not looking for the job. Yes, you went to the Ivy League, and I went to Queens College. I understand. Donald, another quick question that's so important to the audience, which is not only the wall, but it's Hillary Clinton. Who would you rather face, Hillary or Bernie?
Well, I think in terms of winning, I think it's about the same. He's got a little more of a movement. I think that, she's been around a long time, but, she's done a lot of bad things. I think that in terms of winning, I think that really it's going to be similar. I think once you expose him for what he is, it won't be hard beating him. But I think that I would probably prefer running against Hillary because I'd love to beat her. I think that beating her. She's made so many mistakes. Her judgment is so bad. You know, you look at just what Bernie said about her. Bernie Sanders said she's got bad judgment. He actually said she's not qualified to run because her judgment is so bad. And
Donald, I would say the number one reason not to vote for her is her failure as Secretary of State. She was the one who pushed the Arab Spring that caused the refugee nightmare that the world is facing. She owns the Arab Spring. She trumpeted the Arab Spring. She killed Gaddafi. She saluted the death of Gaddafi, and look what happened in Libya. She owns that. How can anyone not see that? I don't understand it.
Well, you know, you look at what's happened in Libya, you look at what's happened so many other places, and all she does is look at her emails. Talk about judgment. Look at the email situation. What a disaster that is. And anybody else would have been in jail by now.
All right, so is it clear that Hillary actually, in your opinion, you're so close to the inside now, the Republicans seem to have awakened to the fact that you are the candidate and they're coming around. Is she really going to be the candidate, do you think, or they're going to run someone like Biden?
Well, I think what happens is, I think it would be tough to put Biden in, but I think and I wouldn't mind running against him either, but I think what happens is that she seems to be protected by the Democrats. You know, if you look at General Petraeus and these others, they went through hell. They destroyed their lives over much less than what she's done. So I think she will be protected. She's protected by the Democrats, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a big, big topic of conversation. Big topic.
Well, she owns the press, Donald. As you well know, you're the only one who has the nerve to attack them. I've said over and over on this show, they are the reason America's in the trouble that it's in. They have enabled these criminal acts to go on. They've attacked anyone who actually stands up for America. They seem to sneer at anyone who wants to make America win again. You know, I was on a TV show last week, and a guy said to me, why do you support Donald Trump? He wants to make America great again. What does he want to do, take us back to slavery and the Great Depression? I said, what are you, crazy? What does that have to do with today? And, you know, that's how crazy they are in the press. This was a major league guy who said he was your friend, Donald. I swear to God. He said, what, does Donald want to take us back to slavery? I said, what are you, nuts? This is what we're dealing with.
This was somebody that said he was my friend? That's interesting. Am I allowed to know who it was? That's amazing.
I'll tell you what, I will email Hope Hicks the interview and the name. He said, I like Donald. He's my friend. But where does he want to take us? Back to slavery, the Great Depression, where women can't vote? I said, what are you, nuts? How could you bring him up? How could you say he's saying that? This is the kind of absurd argument that we're getting from people who really have it in for this country, Donald. I faced it for 20 years. You're facing it now for a year. It's sickening, frankly.
Well, one of the great things that I witnessed yesterday firsthand by myself, I contributed a lot of money and raised a lot of money for the veterans, $5.6 million. Now, that started off as a little tiny amount of money, and it ended up being a lot of money. 5.6 million may go higher than that. And instead of being like, great job, the press, the publicity I was getting over that money was incredible. I raised this money. I didn't have to. I was under no obligation. I was making. I said, let's see what we can do for the vets. So I raised all this money, almost $6 million. And I'm telling you, the bad publicity I get on that. Now, I think the vets understand and the public understands, but the press is so dishonest, I cannot even believe it. I can't believe it.
I saw what they did. They try to take something as beautiful as giving the veterans groups almost $6 million and make it into a negative when they've done nothing but run the veterans off the highway and throw them into the ditch. Donald Trump, I'll let you go. Look, the people really love you on this show. They are your core base, and they've missed you for the last month. I got to tell you, I hope that you find more time to be with us on the Savage Nation. Anytime, you're always welcome.
Well, I have to tell you one quick story. Mrs. Annenberg from Los Angeles, one of the most respected women in the country, a tremendously successful woman, and an unbelievably wealthy woman, I will say. She was with me the other day, and she said, I love the Savage Nation. That's what she told me. One of the most, probably, like, you never saw. This woman is an amazing woman. And
no, I know the name, the Annenberg name, of course. They're old, or they're old school. They're the elite of this country. I understand that. I don't even know what. She must listen to me on the internet.
She listens to you, and she listens to you all the time, and she's probably listening now, but she came up to me. It was at a big group of very, very successful people, and she said, Mr. Trump, I love you because I listen to you on the Savage Nation. I love Michael Savage. And I said, I'm going to tell him you said that. So it's Mrs. Annenberg. You know who that is. That's the That's the elite. There's no question about it.
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely true. When my ancestors were coming over, not on the Mayflower, she was already here. All right, Donald, thanks again for being with us. Don't forget me on Inauguration Day. I want a ticket with an umbrella.
I promise. I will never forget you. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks very much. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. You know, he just said something, I don't have time here, about Mrs. Annenberg loves this show. Now, Leonora Annenberg died in 2009. She was chief of protocol for the United States of America. She was one of the greatest philanthropists of this society. And he must be referring to her daughter, the younger Annenberg. I'm so pleased that I have so many listeners of such high caliber to this show.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Listen, that interview with Donald Trump is more important than you can imagine for many different reasons. Welcome back to the program. Many people were going on Facebook and saying, aha, Trump used you and he's never going to come on the show again. I said, that's not the reason he's not on the show. He's doing other things right now. Did it sound like a man who wanted to avoid hard questions to you? It didn't sound like that to me. Every question I asked Donald Trump in the last segment on the show, he answered. He didn't have to go to a teleprompter. He didn't evade the questions. Will you fast-track the Keystone Oil Pipeline? Yes, but I want a portion of the profits. Will you really build that wall? Yes, the 16,000-strong Border Patrol wants me to do it. Are you still concerned about Muslims from Syria? Yes. Everything I asked him, he answered. He's the most real candidate we've ever had in politics, which is why he's going to be the next president. Now, a second part of that interview that amazed me was his reference, to Mrs. Annenberg. Everybody in California knows the Annenberg name. She was a great philanthropist, the mom. And apparently this is Mrs. Annenberg's daughter, or daughter-in-law. It's Wallace Annenberg is her name, chairman of the board and the CEO. And she's a fabulous philanthropist dedicated not only to education, arts, culture, medical research, but to animal welfare, social justice, environmental stewardship. I hope to meet her when I'm in L.A. next week. I'm going to be in L.A. some of the days next week. And I would love to meet her and talk about my concerns and our donations to animal organizations, for example. That's the one area I'm interested in. But to get back to the show right now, to the people on the line who are listening to this show, I'd like to go to you. If you have any comments about Donald Trump's appearance on this program, the phone number is open to you at 855-400-7282. Let's go to F. I can't even read the letters right now. Rob in Florida, welcome to the program. Rob, what's on your mind?
Hey, Doc. Very good interview. The guy sounded very presidential. I don't understand all these people that think he's incapable of being rational and being able to sit at a table.
No, well, it's because they're not listening to him. They've made up their minds that because he's for America, he's no good. That because he's not a citizen of the world that wants to put America in its place, he's not one of them. That's the only reason they castigate Donald Trump. You know that and I know that. He is our candidate. He is America's candidate. He will put America first. And by the way, when he does, I hope he puts them all in the caboose, all those who hate this country, because that's where they belong. They belong not in the engineer's compartment of this nation. They belong in the caboose, because they've been dragging us down and leading us in the wrong direction, Rob. Thank you for that call. Let's go to line number 6, WCFO in Georgia. Brian, welcome to the program. What's on your mind, Brian?
Savage, I had faith. I knew he was going to come back on your show because he is a true American, and you can just tell he's in it for not all the wrong reasons, but Savage, Trump is in it for all the right reasons, man. He has everything to lose and nothing to gain. And I was just so happy. I almost brought tears to my eyes that he came back on your show. But I had faith, and I knew he would be back on the Savage Nation. And y'all got a special connection. And
listen, I'm hearing you very clearly because you're speaking for a lot of people who were they were asking. Remember, he was on the show every week for a couple of months. It was like every Monday. He'd almost never miss a day. And then all of a sudden, there was a 6-week or more hiatus. And people were saying, he's ditched him. He doesn't need you anymore. He's moving on. The advisors told him not to go on the show. He doesn't need these people. It turned out that their doubts were not fulfilled. He did need you. He does love you. And he does want you to vote for him. So all along the way, I kept saying, he'll be back. He still wants to be on the show. He's doing other things. I didn't turn on him. Did I turn on him like the others in the media who stabbed him in the back? I never did.
You don't turn on a guy like Trump. You never have. You never will. And I literally started crying when that conversation was over because I knew he was back and I knew he was going to be coming back and he's going to be there and he's going to win the election. And
he is. I have a total gut feeling that he's going to be the next president. I believe he's going to win by a landslide. And all of these, I can't use the word, all of these evil America haters are going to wind up where they belong, which is in the outhouse. They're going to wind up not on the ash heap of history. They're going to wind up in the outhouse of history. Now, I'm sending you a beautiful book about my dog and I, Teddy and me, which is more important to me now than it was before Harambe the gorilla was shot dead in that zoo. I don't know. I'm taking more care of my dog now in a different way. I see him differently. Would you believe it? You know that all day yesterday after the show, I was calling him Harambe. I was saying, Harambe, come here, Harambe. He didn't, to him, Ambi means Teddy. Same thing ends in a high note. Harambe. And I was like, I can't explain it. It made me kinder to the dog or like him. I just can't. I don't have the words for it. I just saw him in a different light. I was looking at his eyes in a different way, looking at his nose and imagining what it would be like to spend 17 years raising a gorilla from infancy and see it shot dead in a cage because of a stupid mother that shouldn't have even had a child as far as I'm concerned. Sorry to have to say it to you. I think that the gorilla had such great dignity that for mankind to have been put into this no-win situation of having to shoot him because apparently there was no option once the stupid mother let the baby climb up on that wall is a loss for all of humanity. That's how I see it. There was no win in that one. There's no win in the situation. The only one who's to be blamed is the mother. The mother should be investigated by Child Protective Services. How did the child get on the wall? First question. Don't tell me a 3-year-old can climb up to a 3-foot wall. I don't believe they can. I don't think they have the finger strength to get up on the top of that wall. That's number one. But number two, if you have a child with you in the zoo and it climbs up on a wall over a gorilla moat, the first thing you do is you scream out and grab the kid. Who ever heard of a mother like this? Another mom, another great mom in America. Love it. Just love it. But let's go back to the Trump story. I just got an email. They're inviting me to meet with him while he's out here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off because he's in Sacramento tonight. I mean, theoretically, I could go up there and meet him after the rally somewhere in Sacramento because that's only 90 minutes from me. And then he's going to be in San Jose tomorrow, I think. I don't even want to go there. I don't go to San Jose. It's like, it's like west of the Hudson River to me. I mean, people in New York will understand the joke, which is I don't go north of San Rafael if I can avoid it. I only like a certain parameter within my travels. And the northernmost place I like to go is San Rafael, and the southernmost place I like to go is San Francisco. And even in San Francisco, I won't go south of a certain area. The furthest south I go in San Francisco, I'm trying to think about it if I can get my coordinates correct. Since I generally only go to North Beach for Italian food and Chinatown for Chinese food, the furthest south I will ever go in San Francisco is Market Street. That's about as far south as I go. And the furthest north I go in my travels is I say, San Rafael. I have a limited range. It's like I'm a lion. Lions, you know that lions work within a certain range, that they only stay in like a certain number of, in their, what do they call it, their territory? That's my territory. It's from Market Street to 4th Street. That's it. I had an all-star Memorial Day weekend, I got to tell you. I had the best Hunan Chinese food, and it wasn't in the dump I always eat them because they were closed. It was a new Hunan. It was better. I'm not putting them down. I like the ones on the other one. And Italian food, let's see, forget about it. I had to cook it. No, I had good Italian food. Then I went to a new club. I know I would never join a club that would have me as a member. I'm no longer going to say that because I joined a club that did have me as a member. I made an exception in their case because they're a great group of people. And then I went to another club through that club and had a drink. And by the way, here's the funny part. In liberal Marin County, I went into a club I had never gone into as a member of another club, and I had a drink at the bar alone, and I'm not going to mention any names. I met some of the finest Americans I've ever met in my life. They're staunch, great conservatives. One of them was appointed by Ronald Reagan to a very important position. You know, you say, oh, you see, you can easily typecast a county. You say, oh, everyone in Marin is a flaming liberal. A, that's not true. Or you could say everyone in San Francisco is a psycho-liberal. That's 100% not true. It's the smallest minority of left-wing fanatics own the media and own the government, but they do not represent San Francisco. The people who represent San Francisco have been silenced by the gangsters who took over the newspapers and took over the government to sack it and rob it blind. Write that down, because one day there will be justice in this country. And I hope it's sooner rather than later. So, my friends, here we are. If you care to comment on the interview, the phone number again is 855-400-7282. Let's go to SBA in Pennsylvania. Rose, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hello there, Dr. Savage. I listen to you all the time, and because of you, I have changed my party. I've been a Democrat all my life, and I changed my party because in our state you have to vote your party in the primary. And I changed my party and voted for Trump and got to be two of the fellows who represent Trump, the delegates. And I.
All right. So as a result of the show, what is it you like about Donald Trump? Let's boil it down. What is it you like about him?
He tells it like it is. That's what we want to hear. He's a great.
In plain English, he speaks the plain truth. Is that it?
Absolutely.
In plain English, Donald Trump seems to speak the plain truth. And people are so fed up with the liars that they'll take Donald Trump with all of his bumps and all of his this and all of his that. Thank you so much. I'm sending you Teddy and me for Father's Day. It's a great gift for fathers, by the way. It's not just for mothers. KSFO, Tammy, welcome. Line 4 from San Francisco. What's on your mind?
Michael, I'm a Savage out, have been for 4 years. I want to beg you and plead with you to please go meet with Donald. Do it for all of us who listen to you faithfully.
Well, his assistant just said to me, great, we'll arrange it for, where do you want to meet? I mean, I have the email right here. I'll read it right on the air. I'm not going to read her name, but here she says, awesome. What is the best location for the meeting? Because I said I'd like to meet Donald. So this came from the young lady who runs his campaign. She says, awesome. Where is the best location for a meeting? So I said, it's up to you. I said, I live in a certain place, and tell me what the best place is for you. Then I said, if you'd like to have Italian food in a secret location, let me know. I'll take you to the best Italian food in the world. So I don't know, Tammy, where they're going to, or what the situation is. If I have to have a hamburger in a hotel in Sacramento, so be it. I'll take that over calamari in North Beach. I'm sending you Teddy and me, darling. Stay on the line. This has been quite an exciting day. I got to tell you, it's been rather tense for me in the last couple of days on this show, for a number of reasons that I cannot divulge until January of next year. But at that time, you will learn some things that I have been going through that no other man that you know of could have survived, let alone continue to do a 3-hour show every day. I am possibly one of the strongest individuals you ever heard in your life. But let me tell you something. Whatever it is I am going through is God's will. There is a reason for everything. And I have faced greater obstacles than I am facing now, and I've overcome them all because of one reason, and that's because somebody up there likes me and somebody up there wants me to do certain things. I have had people throw impediments in my way every step of the way in my radio career. I've had people say to me the first week I started on KSFO, I had liberals in the hallway of that building come up to me and try to stop me from doing radio. They did everything you could imagine. They would cut my microphone off. They would say that I bumped into them in the elevator and I didn't even know who they were. They'd rush in the elevator and say, he rushed out of the elevator, stuff like that. They tried to undermine me because they hated my message of borders, language, and culture. And what is about to be divulged in January will make you more sick of the media than you've ever heard in your life. But there's nothing I can do. I cannot change the course of human events. And by the way, at the end of the day, it's all God's will, because something else is in store that may be much greater than I may imagine. I don't know what that is. You see, the thing is that we don't know what awaits us. When decisions are made that affect us, that we have no control over, what we do is we say, oh, God, why this happened? Why this happened? Well, if we really knew why everything happened, life would be, number one, boring, and number two, you'd be God, you wouldn't be man. Or you'd be fate, you wouldn't be man. And so we have to defer to God or fate when things occur and have to say, let it play itself out. Because it always plays out for the best. It always has in my life. When I had that terrible situation with the last radio operators that I was with, it took me years in court and $1 million to free myself from that slavery. I walked off the air the day I won. I had nothing waiting for me. I didn't have another syndicator. I had no stations. I left 330 stations. I said goodbye. No one ever heard from me again. Within a week or 2 weeks, I was back on the air with a much better situation. Well, things happen for a reason. I didn't know that was happening for that reason, just as I don't know that certain things that are brewing in the background are happening for reasons that none of us understand except you know who. I'll be right back on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust to protect my wealth. Call 800-BUY-COIN. I would say June 1st, 2016 is a sort of turning point for the show. For many of the doubting Thomases out there who said, aha, that Savage was just used by Trump. You see, he's moved to the center. He doesn't need him anymore. You know, you were wrong. The guy's a stand-up guy. He never forgets his friends, and believe me, he never forgets his enemies. There's something I know about Donald Trump, and I don't know him that well. I can guarantee you that all those who put a knife in his back, or shall I say try to, will find out in the end that they did the wrong thing. And all those who are right now in the engineers compartment of the train will be in the caboose when he becomes president. That's if they're still on the train at all. All those pretty boys with their nice suits and ties will be all rounded up and put in the caboose of the American train. And maybe we'll get patriotic Americans speaking for us again through the newspapers and through the television and through the internet. Maybe it just might happen. This could be pulled out of the hat. I don't know. Obama is flooding so many diseased and criminal illegals into this country. Many people who are very intelligent say it may be impossible to turn it around. But I got to tell you something. The buses can still run south. The airplanes can still fly south. And the American people can still be marshaled to do what has to be done to cleanse this country. And I stand by those words. This country right now needs a good housekeeping. So get out your brooms, get out your Windex, and get out your cleaning tools. This is the Savage Nation. Be here.